Welcome to the Digital Marketing Insights podcast, brought to you by Brightside Digital.
Everyone, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to say we have Ken today, who's the CEO of the Digital Marketing Institute. How are you doing, Ken?
Oh, good. Thanks, Tom.
Ken, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Can we start by you telling everyone a little bit about yourself and your career to date, please?
Sure. This could take a while because I'm pretty old now, but
Just skip through it, though. You don't have to.
Started life in first job out of college was in marketing in Irish Life. Stayed there for about 10 years, and then started my foray into internet and digital businesses. In about 2000, I became the CMO of IrishJobs.ie, established that brand. And then that company grew internationally and through acquisition and became known as Seon Group. And I ended up as group chief executive of that business in my first sort of role outside of marketing. And from there, worked for myself for a while. And then started to work with high growth businesses with founders who are maybe looking to exit businesses. I worked, first of all, became CEO of Simply Zesty, which is a social media agency, which we sold in 2012. And then I've worked for the last 10 years with Digital Marketing Institute, which is a training and certification business for digital marketers. And we've actually sold that business twice. We sold it in 2017 to a US private equity firm. And we sold it actually earlier this year to a UK education business. And that's where I still am now. So it's a lot of work in 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, but it's brilliant. It's a brilliant overview. So, Ken, on this show, we always look at like the main skill sets. Like, what do you feel you brought to the table in your experience? What's your main traffic drivers or comfort areas in digital?
Yeah, so I suppose, look, when I was working directly in marketing, I suppose for me, my biggest strength was the ability. I understood the principles of brand building and of the core marketing principles. But I always had a good sense of the fact that data-driven decision-making was the way forward, and actually a real sense of the commercial impact you were having. So, that you're actually delivering revenue or profit for the business. So I think that combo of actually understanding that you're trying to meet customer needs and provide your messaging in a way that resonated with customers, but doing that in a way that actually delivered a commercial outcome was probably my biggest strength when I was directly working in marketing. And in my broader role now, it's all about skills in building teams, building good management teams, and driving a business from there. That's I got a piece of advice many years ago, which was hire people who are better than you. And that's what I've tried to do. So it's much more about teamwork now.
Brilliant. And to dive into that a little bit more, is there any recommendations, any kind of tips you can give our audience in that? Is it like, especially around leadership and building?
Yeah, I think the key thing is to be real. So that I don't mean the social media platform, but to actually be honest and truthful with people who work for you, and be vulnerable, because that creates an environment of trust and confidence. And from there, you can still demand from each other the results and the outcomes that you want. In fact, you can probably do it more, but if it isn't embedded in a trusting environment, you're not going to get much success from it. So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is, your job isn't to do the work of the people who work for you. Trust them to do their job, set the vision and the strategy with them, and then let them go and do it and just review it. I think that's the other thing, is don't get in people's way.
Well said. And kind of leading into that, is there any campaign or any work that you're really proud of that might have got a lot of attention?
Sure. Two probably stick out. The first is when we established the IrishJobs.ie brand in Ireland. That everybody knows it now, but when we started working on it, nobody did. So that was a very traditional, classical brand positioning project, and actually mainly above the line advertising at the time. So old school TV, radio, etc., as well as some digital mixed in. So establishing that as a really well-known brand in Ireland is something that I'm very proud of. In more recent times with DMI, with Digital Marketing Institute, it's the fact that we've actually created a global business, and that is not an easy thing to do. But we did a few things. We were a training business face to face for marketers. We moved everything online. That allowed us to look globally. Once we looked globally, we wanted to create credibility in different markets, and we went to the US, and we were able to do a deal with the American Marketing Association. So when you actually study their professional certification program in digital marketing, it's actually a DMI program that you study. And when you finish it, you get a cert from them and a cert from us. But what that meant was, having that link meant that customers and consumers gave you credibility even if they hadn't heard about you before. And we did something similar with the Australian Marketing Institute. And then we also went into a number of markets by partnering with universities and other private training providers. So we were able to sort of create a global business without having to create a brand in each and every market. The second thing we did was we focused on certification as opposed to just training people. So we wanted to become the badge that the Association of Chartered Accountants have for accountants, or the Project Management Institute have for project managers. We wanted to create something that made a difference, that marketers would say, if I have that, then I'm going to get a pay bump or a salary increase or the new job that I want. And when employers look at it, that they go, this person could do the job I'm actually looking for them to do because they have that badge. So by focusing in on certification rather than just being another training provider, that's something that allowed us to establish a dominant position. We're actually the biggest in the world at doing that. We've certified over 60,000 people, and we have about 300,000 members. So that was a really important part of that. And the last part was, as I said before, was hiring people who are really good at what they do to have a team that's capable of actually running a bigger business than we are at the moment.
Well said. And like, it sounds obvious, but your businesses, the two you mentioned there, Irish Jobs and Digital Marketing Institute, they're very much very straightforward named brands. They're not fancy. Yeah. They're not confusing. Is that something that you kind of, they might have been decisions before you took on the roles, but yeah. Is that something that you've learned about? And I suppose from an organic point of view, it's probably the highest searches in the industry for those sort of things and stuff.
Yeah, it certainly helps with organic search. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I think with Irish Jobs, when the business was bought, it was called Irish Jobs Page. I mean, you're talking the very early days of internet businesses. And we changed the name to Irish Jobs, but it's pretty memorable from a URL recognition point of view. irishjobs.ie wasn't too long to type in, and it resonated from an organic search point of view. So there was a number of reasons why that actually made huge sense. Also, because it was early days, it was actually easier to get the URL you actually wanted. So, there's a lot to be said for. With Digital Marketing Institute, the company was named before I joined, but we did go through a brand repositioning exercise and reviewed whether we should change the name. And actually the feedback from research and for various business reasons, like you mentioned, organic results, etc., what actually came back was we should stick with what we have. It makes sense to people, resonates with people, the old Ron Seal sort of approach that it does what it says in the tin. And there's a lot to be said for it. So we're not a consumer brand. We don't have to be different in that respect. We're a brand for professionals. So, do what you say you're going to do makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant. And going back to like your day-to-days now or in your previous roles, is there any softwares that you've carried on? Is there anything that you go to and swear by and would like to recommend to everyone?
Yeah, I'm pretty boring on this stuff. I mean, it's all the basics. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are the core of what I do, but also SalesForce, because we use that as our sales management system. So I'm pretty much a high power user of SalesForce at this point. Two that I mentioned, we've just started using Customer.io as a customer relationship management piece of software, and that's really, I think, going to enable us to scale communications globally to a lot of different segments of our customers. So pretty excited about the opportunities that could bring. And we also use internally a Irish platform called workvivo for the team to actually keep in touch with each other. So those are two that more recently I've seen, one an internal one and one that we'll use for our customer relationship management, which I'm pretty excited about.
Love that. And Ken, how do you keep your knowledge sharp? Where do you go for new insights and information?
We have a brilliant blog on Digital Marketing Institute. So look, genuinely, we produce great content that people can stay in touch. We do lots of different formats, etc. Other than that, I like Adweek in the US because it gives a quick burst of information on a daily basis for news and trends, and then a bunch of creators on LinkedIn, different thought leaders in both marketing and general management. That'd be probably the three things that I would use most often.
Love it. And yourself for a second, is there anywhere you're looking to upskill and learn more in a certain area?
Yeah, look, I would be of the type of person who sort of thinks I'm never 100% good at anything. So I don't actually, there's a reason why professional soccer players and tennis players practice every day, even though they're brilliant at what they do, is because I don't ever think you get to the point where you're fully finished. So, our own business is based on the idea of a lot of digital marketers say to us that they have phobia, which is fear of becoming irrelevant. So this sort of idea of continuous learning and improvement is something I buy into myself. So I would say everything that I do, I just want to get a bit better at all the time, to be honest with you.
Really well said. And from a marketer's point of view, a digital marketer at the moment, what do you see maybe from your own knowledge for your business or externally? What do you see as the biggest opportunity in the industry at the moment? What would you recommend to people?
Yeah, look, I think I'm not going to say anything earth-shatteringly new here, but AI has definitely got the power to fundamentally change an awful lot of things, not just digital marketing. I think it has the potential to be one of the biggest changes and events that occurs over the next 10 years. So with AI for marketers, there's the opportunity to use it in day-to-day work, in content development, in executing. I think it remains to be seen how exactly it's going to help people, and that's probably only going to become apparent over the next year or so. But both from a consumer's point of view and from your own point of view in doing your job, it's going to impact both. So I think getting your head around that as early as possible is pretty important. I would put that front and center.
Yeah, love that. And just to touch on, you mentioned customer IO there for a second. Yeah. For anyone unfamiliar, can you explain why they should probably consider it and how it could help their own business?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons, Tom. I think the main thing is it allows personalization at scale on a communications level. So increasingly consumers, whether they be in B2B customers or B2C customers, are demanding that they get their information that's personalized to them, that they don't just feel one of many, that they feel important. It allows personalization at scale. And what that allows a marketer to do is to test different messaging quickly and easily. It's to change wording and something quickly and easily, so that they can scale up and look globally quite easily. That's the important thing. If you're running campaigns, running email campaigns, it can be difficult to have different messages for different groups unless you have a piece of software to actually help you do it, and that can impact your results. So I think creating personalization at scale is one big benefit. The other benefit is that it allows you to have quality CX and UX in a multi-channel environment. So an awful lot of people, there's a different experience for customers if they're buying digitally versus maybe if they're buying from that company's bricks and mortar outlet. And it's really annoying for as customers when it's different or when one lets you down. And I think it allows you the opportunity to think about the CX and UX to your customers so that they don't feel the digital experience is worse from the bricks and mortar experience.
Yeah, it's really well said. And I could see how applying it to your business would be huge. To touch on that a little bit more, not necessarily in the customer side of things, but is there any, what would you say is the biggest traffic driver in the industry, for your industry at the moment? And, you're a global business now. What what gets you those new audiences? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so content still delivers content marketing. So because we have hundreds and hundreds of hours of training, we can pretty easily put our hand onto tips on SEO, tips on video and marketing, strategy tips, search marketing tips. So because we have that library, we give an awful lot of it actually away for free. And that tends to drive content. So, for example, just to give you one example, recently GA4 was a hot topic and drove an awful lot of traffic. For us, we actually offered a paid webinar and course specifically in it. So that was a hot topic just around the time that GA4 was making the switch over. But actually, core things like writing a digital marketing plan or a marketing calendar, they sort of permeate, and they're always required. How do I construct a marketing budget? So it doesn't have to be the latest thing. It can actually just be the stuff that we all go to the internet going, how the hell do I do this?
That's brilliant, because even though the platforms and stuff might change, the fundamentals of those
Yeah.
are evergreen. They don't necessarily change. So it's about just keeping them updated. And I can see that the content side of things is huge.
Yeah. Careers
Lastly,
content is a big one for us as well, because people would look to us because we created a certification standard by actually having positive career outcomes for people. That's what we worry about. So, over 60% of our people will get a pay rise or a promotion after they do the course within 12 months. But that's the sort of people search for, how am I going to improve my career? And
yeah.
then they might go and do a training course or get a certification standard for that.
And it's an industry that is always adapting and growing, and there is a lot of opportunity. And it also, with the internet, and we're going back to probably the early days Irish jobs, but as a result of the internet, it's given a lot more freedom and flexibility for people to get jobs, even in other countries or clients and things like that. So definitely digital marketing skill sets are so important to everyone, so to speak, nowadays. Lastly, Ken, I always finish the show on this question, which is around yourself. If you could bottle up one personality trait that you have yourself, Ken, that you could pass on to others, what would it be?
I think what I said earlier about being real with people, to be honest, that's that, be truthful, be honest, and be vulnerable, because otherwise people see through you. And secondly, when you do that, you create a better working relationship with other people. So, and the other thing I do is I drive businesses. I understand what value is about when it comes to shareholders and customers. So I've had that lesson. So, I think driving the business, sometimes, that can be an up and down bit of a roller coaster sometimes when you're in high growth businesses, but actually it's pretty exciting most of the time. So sort of that ability to drive businesses is the other thing that I would have.
Spoken like a true leader. Ken, that's it. Thanks so much for being on the show. But if anyone wants to reach out to you or see your work, how can they find you and see what you do?
So LinkedIn is probably best for reaching out to me directly. And if you want to find out about Digital Marketing Institute, then go to the longest URL in the world, which is digitalmarketinginstitute.com, and you'll see everything there.
Honestly, it's a great site and a great service you provide. So yeah, definitely people check it out. That's it, Ken. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for watching, listening, everything else.
Pleasure. Thanks, Tom. Bye-bye.